The smile on Maren Voss's face was too calm, too polished, too rehearsed. She pushed a single sheet of paper across the conference table as if she were offering me an opportunity instead of an insult. Behind her, the glass walls of the executive boardroom reflected the faces of 3 senior managers watching in silence. "Calla," she said smoothly, folding her hands over her designer notebook. "Bright Veil Solutions is entering a necessary restructuring phase. Everyone has to make sacrifices." I looked down at the number printed in bold. My salary was being reduced from $85,000 to $34,000. 60%. For a moment, the room became strangely quiet. Not peaceful quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after someone slaps you and waits to see if you will cry. If you're wondering why she didn't even blink when she tore my salary apart, and what was inside the letter I would hand her later, that would make her hands tremble, then please like this video. Don't forget to tell me where you're listening from and what the temperature is like there. I'll explain everything right now. I have dedicated 7 years to Bright Veil Solutions. 7 years of late nights, missed school events, emergency production fixes, and formulas that had turned Bright Veil from a failing cleaning supply company into a name their biggest clients trusted. I had helped build their empire while raising my daughter alone and fighting through medical bills that arrived every week like threats. And they knew that. They knew my daughter needed treatment. They knew I couldn't simply walk away without consequences. That was why Maren looked so confident. She wasn't offering me a choice. She thought she had found my weakness. I also want to add that this story is fictional and was created with the support of artificial intelligence to bring a more engaging experience and deeper lessons. I hope you'll feel that with me. The elevator doors closed behind me, and only then did I let myself breathe. Not deeply, not dramatically, just enough to keep walking. Downstairs. The building looked the same as it always did, polished floors, framed awards, the giant Bright Veil logo shining behind the reception desk like it had earned every success by itself. No one looking at that lobby would know how much of that success had been built in the lab at the back of the building, under flickering lights, with a woman eating vending machine crackers for dinner while testing one more variation before midnight. That woman was me. My name is Calla Price. I was 36, a formulation chemist, and the only parent my daughter, Leora, had. She was 12, sharp, funny, and far too familiar with hospital bracelets, specialist appointments, and the kind of adult worries children should never have to recognize. Her autoimmune condition had changed everything about our lives. Some days she was bright and stubborn, arguing with me about homework and asking for pancakes at impossible hours. Other days, she was pale on the couch beneath 3 blankets, pretending she felt better because she hated seeing me scared. The bills came in layers. Doctor visits, tests, prescriptions, treatments insurance questioned, delayed, or only partly covered. I learned to read medical statements the way other people read weather reports, searching for the next storm before it arrived. Bright Veil had seen pieces of that life. They had approved my emergency leave forms. They had heard me take hushed calls from clinics. They had watched me return to work after hospital nights with coffee in one hand and lab notes in the other. So their decision was not made in ignorance. It was made with knowledge. That was the part that settled coldest in my chest as I reached my car. They had not simply underestimated me. They had studied my pressure points and mistaken responsibility for weakness. I sat behind the wheel, placed the folder on the passenger seat, and stared at it for a long moment. Then I smiled. Not because I was calm, because I was ready. That readiness had not appeared overnight. It had begun months earlier. On a Tuesday night when Leora was asleep in the next room, and I was sitting at my kitchen table with my employment contract spread open beneath a cheap lamp, I had asked Bright Veil for a raise that week. Not a bonus, not sympathy. A raise that reflected what my work had done for the company. Their answer had been wrapped in polite language and empty appreciation. They praised my dedication, mentioned budget caution, and offered a one-time wellness stipend that barely covered 2 months of Leora's medication. That same evening, I heard Marin laughing at a client reception about how my division had become the backbone of Brightvale's revenue growth. She said it proudly, as though the formulas had invented themselves. Something in me changed that night. When I got home, I pulled out every document I had signed when I joined the company: offer letter, confidentiality agreement, research policy, intellectual property clause. I read slowly, line by line. Because desperation teaches you to notice details powerful people hope you ignore. And there it was. Brightvale-owned inventions, discoveries, and formulations created during standard business hours, using company facilities, equipment, or materials. I read the sentence 3 times, then a fourth, because my best work had not truly begun under Brightvale's fluorescent lab lights. It had begun in the small workspace I built in my garage, between laundry baskets, storage boxes, and shelves of carefully labeled supplies I bought myself. When ideas came to me after midnight, I tested them there. When Leora had appointments, I sketched molecular adjustments in waiting rooms, on weekends, while she rested. I ran small trials at home. Later, I recreated successful results at work, polished them, scaled them, and watched Brightvale take the credit. But the origins were mine. My notebooks proved it. My receipts proved it. My dated experiment videos proved it. For the first time in years, I did not feel trapped. I felt awake. From that night on, I stopped moving like an employee who was waiting to be rescued and started moving like a woman building a case. I did not tell anyone at Brightvale, not a coworker, not HR, not even the few people in the lab I still trusted. I had learned that in a company like that, concern traveled faster than truth, and by the time a secret reached leadership, it always arrived twisted into something they could use against you. So I became careful. Every notebook from my garage lab was scanned and copied. Every dated entry was organized by formula: trial number, temperature, material source, and result. I saved purchase receipts for solvents, stabilizers, surfactants, glassware, filters, and testing strips I had bought with my own money. I backed up videos of home experiments where my kitchen timer beeped in the background and Leora's voice occasionally drifted through the door, asking if I wanted tea. Those little imperfect details became proof. 3 months before Marin slid that salary cut across the table, I met with a patent attorney named Rowan Hale. He had a small office above a bookstore downtown, and the tired eyes of a man who had seen too many inventors robbed by people in better suits. He listened for nearly an hour without interrupting. Then he spread my documents across his desk and said, "Calla, this is stronger than you think. We focused on 3 formulations. The first 2 were already quietly carrying Brightvale's biggest contracts, but the third was mine alone, unseen by them, still locked inside my private research files. I called it CW40, a cold water industrial cleaning agent that worked at lower temperatures without losing strength. For factories, that meant less energy, lower costs, and a cleaner environmental profile. Rowan filed provisional patent applications before Brightvale ever knew I had found the opening in their contract. By the time they tried to corner me, I was no longer cornered. I was documented, protected, and waiting. Waiting required acting, and I had become better at it than they deserved. For the next several days, I returned to Brightvale as if nothing had changed. I ran scheduled tests. I answered emails. I smiled when Marin passed the lab windows with executives trailing behind her like polished shadows. When she asked whether I had thought more about the restructuring offer, I lowered my eyes just enough to look worried. I need a little more time. I told her, Leora's medical costs make this complicated. Her expression softened into something rehearsed and hollow. We understand this is difficult, Calla, but business realities don't pause for personal circumstances. That sentence told me everything I needed to know. During lunch breaks, I left the building and drove across town to meet with someone Brightvale would have considered dangerous. His name was Elias Renner, Director of Research at Meridian Cleantech, Brightvale's largest competitor. Meridian had newer facilities, stronger environmental standards, and a reputation for stealing market share without making noise. Elias did not begin our meeting by asking what I could do for his company. He began by asking what I wanted my work to become. That nearly undid me. I showed him my portfolio, my published results, my documented formulations, and the early data for CW40. He read quietly, stopping only to ask precise technical questions. No condescension, no suspicion, no attempt to make my achievements sound smaller. When he finished, he leaned back and said, "Kala, this is exceptional, not useful, not promising, exceptional." I had not realized how long it had been since someone said that to me without wanting something first. Meridian offered me a senior research director role. Starting salary, $175,000. Full benefits, dedicated research budget, a team of chemists reporting to me. Not above me. Freedom to develop CW40 under terms that recognized my ownership of existing intellectual property. I sat very still. For years, Bright Veil had made me feel expensive. Elias made me understand I had been underpriced. If you think I was wrong to quietly meet with Bright Veil's biggest competitor while pretending to consider their offer, comment too far. But if you believe I was finally protecting my worth and my daughter's future, comment I stand with Kala. I needed that courage more than ever. On the morning before my deadline, I dressed like I was going to a negotiation, not a surrender. A navy dress, low heels, my father's silver watch, hair pinned back, no shaking hands, no visible fear. Leora watched me from the kitchen table. Spoon paused over her cereal. "You look like you're about to win an argument," she said. I kissed the top of her head. Something like that. At 9:15, I walked into Bright Veil headquarters, carrying 2 envelopes in my bag. The receptionist barely glanced up. To her, I was still just the chemist from the back lab, the tired woman with coffee and folders, never someone who belonged on the executive floor. That made what came next even better. Marin's assistant stood quickly when I stepped out of the elevator. "Miss Voss is in a leadership meeting, I know," I said, and kept walking. The conference room went silent when I opened the door. Marin sat at the head of the table, surrounded by executives, legal counsel, and finance directors. Her mouth tightened the moment she saw me. "Kala," she said coldly, "this is not a good time. It will only take a minute." I placed the first envelope in front of her. She stared at it. "Is that your signed acceptance?" "Not exactly," I said. "It's a licensing agreement." The room shifted. I continued before anyone could interrupt. For Bright Veil's continued use of 3 proprietary formulations, currently supporting your industrial product line, X, R, 7P, T19, and CW40. Their legal director, Grant Bell, gave a short laugh. "Your formulations. Everything you developed here belongs to Bright Veil. Only work created during standard business hours, using company facilities, equipment, or materials." I replied. Then I placed the second envelope beside the first. "These are copies of provisional patent filings, dated research logs, purchase records, and documentation showing the original development took place in my home lab, outside company time, with materials I personally purchased." Marin finally opened the envelope. For the first time since I had known her, she had nothing polished to say. Grant reached for the papers, but Marin pulled them closer as if possession could change what they said. Her eyes moved across the pages faster and faster. Around the table, the executives stopped looking annoyed. They looked awake. "The licensing fee is listed on page 4. I said, $4,250 per formulation, per month, for continued commercial use. The finance director whispered something under his breath. Someone else opened a laptop and began typing. Marin's face hardened. "This is ridiculous. You expect us to pay you rent for products we already manufacture?" "No," I said. "I expect you to stop using work you do not own unless you license it properly. Your other option is to rebuild the entire product line from scratch. No one laughed then. They understood the numbers before I had to explain them. Reformulation meant new testing, new compliance review, new manufacturing adjustments, delayed shipments, angry clients, and millions in potential losses. Bright Veil's most profitable products depended on formulas they had assumed belonged to them because I had been too tired, too loyal, and too afraid to object. Grant tried again. "We can challenge this." "You can," I said calmly, "but discovery would be uncomfortable. Emails about pushing me out while keeping my research. Discussions about my daughter's medical situation making me unlikely to leave. Internal notes about lowering my compensation because I had limited options. I did not know exactly what existed, but the way 3 people at that table looked away told me enough. Marin stood so fast, her chair rolled backward. Everyone out. The room emptied in seconds. When we were alone, she leaned forward, voice low and poisonous. "You have no idea what kind of mistake you're making." "I do," I said. "I made the mistake for 7 years. I confused being needed with being valued. Then, I placed my employee badge beside the agreement. I've accepted a position with Meridian Cleantech, Senior Research Director. They understand ownership better than you do." Her mouth opened, but no words came. I turned and walked out before she found them. Meridian did not make me wait in a lobby like a supplicant. Elias met me at the front entrance on my first morning, coffee in hand. Smiling like my arrival mattered, not because I was useful in secret, not because I could rescue a failing product line while someone else took credit, because they had chosen me. "Openly, welcome, Kala," he said. "Your team is excited." The word team almost made me stop walking. He led me through a bright research wing with glass walls, clean benches, modern equipment, and windows that actually let in daylight. My new lab was twice the size of the one I had fought to use at Bright Veil. On the door, a temporary nameplate already read Kala Price, Senior Research Director. Inside, 4 researchers were waiting. Mara, a polymer specialist. Theo, process engineer. Jun, environmental compliance analyst. And Celine, a formulation chemist whose first words to me were not about deadlines, but about collaboration. "I read your early notes on CW40, she said. "The cold water stability is brilliant. I have some ideas if you're open to them." Open to them. No one tried to steal the sentence from my mouth. No one treated partnership like a threat, for the first time in years. I worked without shrinking. At home, Leora noticed before I did. "You look different," she said one evening, curled on the couch beneath a blanket, "less tired in your eyes." Her new treatment started the following week. Meridian's benefits covered what Bright Veil's plan had fought to deny. Slowly, the color returned to her face. She laughed more. She asked about school clubs again. That Saturday, we visited an animal shelter just to look and came home with a one-eared rescue dog named Pippin, who immediately decided Leora was his person. New job, new treatment, new dog. A life I had almost forgotten we deserved. 6 weeks after I left Bright Veil, my phone rang while I was reviewing stability data in the Meridian lab. The number was unfamiliar. "Is this Kala Price?" a nervous woman asked. "Yes." "Who's calling? My name is Nia Calder. I'm a junior chemist at Bright Veil. I know this is inappropriate, but I didn't know who else to tell." I stepped away from the bench. Nia spoke quickly, as if afraid she would lose her courage. Grant had ordered the lab to reverse engineer my protected formulas. They were working double shifts, comparing ingredient behavior, trying to alter the structure just enough to avoid paying the licensing fees. When one researcher questioned the legal risk, Grant reportedly said, "We only need it different enough on paper," for a moment. I felt the old anger rise. Then I did something Bright Veil never expected. I stopped reacting to them. The next morning, I asked Elias and Meridian's legal team for a meeting. I laid out what Naya had told me, then opened my research notebook. My patents protect individual formulations. I said, but what if we build something larger? Not a product, a system. Elias leaned forward. I proposed an integrated industrial cleaning platform, X, R7PT, 19CW40, and new stabilizing agents designed to work together across temperature, surface type, residue level, and water usage. Something Brightvale could not copy by tweaking one formula. 12 weeks later, we field tested it in 3 manufacturing plants. The results stunned even me. Cleaning time dropped by 40%. Water usage fell by 60%. Equipment surfaces showed less wear after repeated cycles. Clients did not just want samples, they wanted contracts. Brightvale had tried to escape one letter. Instead, they pushed me into creating their replacement. 3 months after Meridian launched the integrated system, Brightvale requested acquisition talks. Not a partnership, not a licensing expansion. An acquisition. Their biggest clients were moving. Their research department had lost talent. Their board had removed Moran after the investigation uncovered more than just my case. What began as one insulting salary cut had exposed a culture built on taking too much from people who had too little power to object. Elias invited me into every negotiation. When the deal closed, I returned to Brightvale through the same lobby where I had once walked out with a folder on the passenger seat and fire in my chest. This time, my title was Director of Research and Development across both divisions. The lab staff gathered in the main conference room, nervous, uncertain, watching me the way people watch a storm they are not sure will pass over them. I'm not here for revenge. I told them, I'm here to build the place we should have had. We changed everything. Research credit became documented. Patent contributions became transparent. Compensation reviews were tied to measurable innovation. Not loyalty disguised as silence. I helped create a scholarship program for scientists carrying family caregiving responsibilities. Because no one should have to choose between ambition and the people they love. A year later, Leora was healthier. Pippin slept at her feet every night. Medical bills no longer frightened me awake at 3 a.m. Sometimes, I think about Marin sliding that paper toward me, believing it was my defeat. It was not. It was the spark. My worth was never theirs to reduce, and sometimes the quietest revolution is not the loudest fight. It is the moment you finally stop accepting less than you deserve. Sometimes the moment meant to break you is actually the moment that wakes you up. I used to believe that if I worked harder, stayed quieter, and sacrificed more, people would eventually see my value. But I learned that the wrong people will never reward your loyalty if they are benefiting from your silence. This journey has taught me 5 lessons. First, I learned that my worth is not defined by someone who profits from underestimating me. Second, I learned that preparation is stronger than anger. When I stayed calm and moved with strategy, I protected myself better than any outburst could. Third, I learned that responsibility is not weakness. Loving my daughter and needing stability did not make me powerless. It gave me a reason to fight smarter. Fourth, I learned that respect must be shown in actions, not empty praise, fake sympathy, or polished words in a meeting room. Fifth, I learned that standing up for yourself can open doors you were once too afraid to imagine. And if this story touched something in you, I hope you remember this. You are not difficult for knowing your value. And you are not ungrateful for refusing to be exploited. What about you? Have you ever had to stand up for your worth when someone tried to make you feel small? Share your lesson in the comments. Your story might give someone else the courage they need today. If this message meant something to you, please like, subscribe, comment, and share this video by sharing it. You may help someone realize they deserve better too. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next story.
Welcome to Boardroom Revenge Stories, a channel focused on workplace conflict, corporate betrayal, power struggles, and quiet justice. Our stories follow a structured workflow to deliver a consistent, immersive experience. We start by analyzing real discussions on Reddit, Facebook, Quora, and blogs. Next, we craft original scripts using AI tools like ChatGPT. We then use 11 Labs to transform text into high-quality voice and edit everything in CapCut for a smooth, cinematic finish. Thumbnails are designed with Canva, and every video is carefully reviewed before release. These stories go beyond entertainment, revealing how power truly works and how justice quietly unfolds.